All right. It is 10 o'clock a.m. and we are going to start. I'm going to be looking here. We've already got some comments coming in. And Liz, you and I met, I was about probably 10 years ago, and you participated in some of my seminars. And you were
I
such,
remember Red Hot and Hired and all
yeah,
that stuff.
Jobstoberfest.
Jobstoberfest. Yes, of course.
I need to start
Yes.
doing those again. They were so much.
Oh, it was a lot of fun.
And I remember we went down and did one. I think you were there at the Comedy Works.
Oh, heck yeah. That was like my element, Andrew.
Yeah,
The
right. I know.
comedy club.
A
Because,
stage and a mic and a comedy club.
oh, exactly. Dark room audience is just brilliant. Do it
Hey,
again.
real quick, how did you make the transition from being an VP of HR in a Fortune 500 company to saying, I'm giving up this bullshit and I'm going to go do my own thing? And it's my passion. It's what I like to do.
Well, Mother Nature, right? The universe, or whoever you want to blame, the laws of physics. I love doing HR in the corporate side. I got lucky. I worked for really good companies, and I saw the power of, trusting people basically at work, hiring great people and like kind of setting them free to do their thing. But I was very conscious because my boss at the Fortune 5 didn't start out as a Fortune 500 company. It was a startup that grew to become a large company, right? So I got to see all that evolution. And my boss said, I want you to start an HR council of high-tech companies here in Chicago at the time. So I'm talking to all these other HR people, and I saw that our company was different. The way we did HR and leadership and just the place was fundamentally different. It wasn't rule bound. We didn't mistrust or fear our own employees. And I didn't realize until then how atypical that was. And I said, okay, so this is real broken. And first opportunity, when I have a little wherewithal, a little latitude, I'm going to start writing and speaking about this brokenness and how to fix it. And so that's how it happened.
So, you and I mean, we've been doing this for years and working with job seekers. And I mean, your experience is obviously the more conventional path in terms of human resources. Mine, I bring a marketing and advertising and communications PR side to this whole thing. But they're very they're very relatable paths in terms of what we do. But I want to say something, and this is going to be my soapbox moment, because I think that it's changed a lot in the last 10 years. So let's get real. The idea of getting a job out of college and then expecting that job to last for 40 years until retirement at 65 is complete hogwash. People are constantly changing and realigning their careers. And it's primarily, and I think this is really true since the last recession, is that there is no loyalty from companies. Companies are not your friends. They're not responsible for your career happiness. If something happens, a downturn in the economy, a lost client, a crisis in the company, a merger and acquisition, they have absolutely no problem laying you off, showing you on your way. Maybe, but not promised, you'll get a severance of some type or maybe some outsourced job seeking help. So in other words, and you talk a lot about this, your job is your business. You're responsible for yourself. You are, as cold-hearted as it seems, you're a product in the marketplace of job seekers that requires you to brand, to publicize, to market, persuade the consumer, which is the employer, that your value is worthwhile. And it doesn't just happen. It's not simply going to be recognized because of past jobs that you have listed on your resume, that someone is just immediately going to say, oh, I've got the connection. Of course, we're going to bring that person in and voila, magic happens. You have to proactively and strategically persuade others that you have unique skills, abilities, experiences, and the right personality and the emotional intelligence that will help ease their pain, take care of their problems, and by the way, will convince them to pay you what you're worth, oodles and oodles of dollars. And if they don't, then you can move on and find another job. So saying all of that, you talked about reinvention in an article, and I'm just going to read a little part, and then this is actually coming to a question.
That's good. That's fine.
This is what you wrote. You wrote that reinvention means stepping into a new skin. It means stopping and noticing where you are and where you're from, choosing a new path to follow. Sometimes we realize with a start that we haven't thought about our path in years, or looked at our options, or considered what we really want out of a life and a career. It's confusing, it's frustrating to be in this place. You don't know how to go forward. You might think, I know I don't want to do the same thing I've been doing, but what else could I do instead? Or I'd be fine continuing in the same field, but those jobs don't exist anymore. It's scary to be out there on the edge, wondering what's next. We didn't learn reinvention in college. We don't know how to navigate. That's kind of your reinvention or your definition of reinvention. But tell me what reinvention means to you.
Well, look, you said so many truths there, Andrew, starting with the cradle to grave employment. We're probably about the same age. I think you're younger than me, but my dad had one job. Out of college, hired on campus, retired from the same job. Unheard of today. But that was the mindset that I grew up with. I don't remember my father ever talking about changing jobs during the 35, however many years he worked for his one employer. It was just the job. That was the job. He got promoted, he was fortunate, and that was it. And if every single day wasn't perfect, no days were bad enough to send him looking for something else, nor did he ever worry about job security, which is, we can't even relate to that today. We can't even imagine it. It was good and bad, that Camelot era. It was good and bad. It was a post-war jobs boom that lasted from the end of World War II till the late 1980s or the early 1990s. And it started to drift away. It started to not be our prevailing situation, but we hadn't been talking about it. And we haven't been talking about it loudly until just recently. Even though every kid graduating from college or going out into the workplace today is going to be living in this world, not at all in that one. We've got to lose the mentality that any job represents security for us. They don't. We live in the United States. I assume most listeners today live in the United States. And the United States is the only industrialized nation on the planet. I think the United Nations has 192. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that. Last time I checked, 192 member countries. A lot of countries on this globe, and the United States is the only one of them that's industrialized and offers no job security to working people whatsoever. The doctrine is called employment at will. And when I was a baby HR person in 1984, 24, going to HR meetings, and they said, well, we have employment at will. I said, what does it mean? Oh, it just means that since employees can quit anytime they feel like it, we can also let them go anytime we feel like it. That's fair. I said, what? We can? We can just say goodbye, you're gone? I like the Red Sox, you like the Yankees, you're gone? What? Why would we want that? That puts fear into people that we want to be charged up. We want them focused. We want them on the team. We want them caring about this stuff, not worrying that they ticked off the wrong supervisor and got fired. That's insanity. Well, it is insanity, and it's still going on today, however many 35 years later in the United States. So what that says is we have to wake up. And no, that doesn't apply to the UK. I love you, but that is not how it works in the UK. In the UK, people have employment contracts. And so do they in all of the rest of the industrialized world. Some kind of contract. I'm sure things have been weakened and loosened over the last 10 years. I'm not surprised to hear that. I hear that from folks in the UK all the time, but there's a contract. You cannot just be sent out on the street. Okay, so what happens is in the US is that we've been lulled into this fake sense of security that the job is going to be there until we get ready to leave. Well, I'm sure there's many people on this call that have learned through harsh experience that's not how it works. And what it means is what you also said, Andrew, we all have to be ready to go at any moment. And we have to be CEOs of our own career. Yes, this aspect. I'm a product. I have to market myself. Oh, it feels so like I have to fit in to some larger thing and contort myself. But also we're CEOs. We're also a CEO of our own career, driving the car, deciding where to go at any moment. So I'm sorry, Valerie. I hear you. It is frustrating. CEO that ended up in jail. Yeah, that's when Mother Nature hits you with a lightning bolt and says, yeah, CEO's in jail. He seemed like a nice guy. I took the job. Now he's in jail. Okay, we're in charge. Reinvention means simply taking up the reins again, saying, oh, I was in a good situation. It was great. It went away. Take up the reins again. The tendency of all of us is to fall asleep on our careers and stop thinking about them. I got a job. My boss loves me. I forget about it. My boss loves me. I'm working on my deliverables, my KPIs. I don't have to worry. Hey, no, yeah, it's not worry, but be awake and be conscious, because your boss is nobody in this whole thing. They could go to jail. They could be dumped with you and the whole division next week. It's a harsh reality, but it's also, whenever we touch reality, whenever we confront the real world, we get stronger. And the confrontation that we're talking about, Andrew and I and all of us today, is that we always have to know what we want and be ready to go and get it, because companies do not offer job security anymore if they ever did, and you cannot rest on the job you've got. He's living high on the hog. Well, karma will take care of that horrible CEO. You're a horrible CEO, Shirley, at one point. We can't wait around. Might be 10,000 years.
Well, and the thing is, there's the other myth is that you should stop learning after college. Because I know so many people who they get into their 40s and they said, well, everything that I learned in college is no longer relevant.
Shocker. Wow, yeah. The world changed in 20 years. I'm appalled. Yeah, we hope we still get learning. It would be real boring if we didn't. But this idea, reinvention, to me is a physical change that happens to every living creature. If you look at anything that's alive, it grows. The hermit crab leaves the shell gets too small, and they have to go out naked on the beach, looking for a larger shell. A snake sheds its skin, and I understand it's uncomfortable. And they come out with this kind of fresh and kind of uncomfortable, maybe even painful new skin. That's us. That's us in reinvention. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not supposed to be easy. The biggest mistake people make in this scary world of I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do now is that they go very quickly to the wrong answer just to say there's an answer. I solved it. I solved my reinvention like a Sudoku puzzle. I'm going to go work for my brother, doing this thing that I probably won't like and won't learn from, but I don't want to experience any pain or any discomfort. It's normal. But that's like you're still going to deal with the reinvention. It's just going to be delayed.
Well, and to a degree, every job you take is a reinvention. I mean, it might be a different industry. It might be a different thing that you're doing, but we don't think of it that way. The reinvention questions I get are about the massive disruption. I've got these transferable skills that are going to allow me to navigate into a new industry, or I have a lifelong passion that I'm really interested in and I want to turn it into a career, but I have no idea how to make that jump. I mean, it's one of those things. It sounds good when you say it fast enough, but in fact, it is a multi-layered, complex process. Using that kind of disruption definition, what are some of the common scenarios that you see with people who are reinventing themselves?
There's a lot of scams out there, Andrew, in the world. And one of the scams is the idea that your credibility as a working person comes from your subject matter expertise in the one particular subject. I don't know what kind of horrible accent that was, but I was trying to convey solidity, right? No, you learn, you get out there. So many jobs are so much like so many other jobs, Andrew. You've been a professional musician in a pit. I've been a professional musician, and people used to say, how can you do human resources and then run off to sing opera at night? Isn't it so different? No, it's exactly the same, you guys. It's exactly the same. When you get that sameness, when you notice how people getting together to try to accomplish something is pretty much the same, from one situation to the other, you will worry less about your career transition and rebranding yourself for a new role. Office jobs, you guys, if we're talking about office jobs, they're the same. Don't be deterred. The terminology, the jargon, I'm not from the industry, that's all garbage. I tell my kids to make people feel insecure and less than. It's not true. How is it that at the executive level, they'll take somebody who's a VP of marketing and say, now you're VP of HR, and they glide in and they do a great job.
Right.
There's no fear that, oh, they don't know the laws, they don't know this and that. That is for us worker bees. We're expected to, all your credibility is in your subject matter expertise. That's nonsense. Your credibility is in who you are, the life you've lived, things you've experienced, the learning you've gotten, the risks you've taken, and you have to feel it. When you feel it, when you see the relevance of the things you've done to the next thing you want to try, you're going to be able to bring it out on paper.
So
Andrews, go ahead.
Are there patterns in a career people should consider? So for example, if we lay out the chapters of someone's work history, we can really start to see not only skills that evolve and develop and get better, but also areas of strength that have developed that become relevant to that next chapter. It could be management, leadership, motivation, project management. I mean, even our personalities in terms of, we mature, we develop emotional intelligence, and we develop things that people like. I mean, are those the kinds of patterns that, people should be looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, there were very traditional courses of action. There were particular recommended career trajectories. Start out in a big company, then move to a big company, small one. Start out in consulting. These were all the mantras, and they're still out there today. Today, so much of that, I think, is blown away with the wind because you won't choose your first job. You're going to get your first job. You're going to be happy to get it. So it's not like you get to decide all the time. I know that I said you're the CEO, and you are, and you make all the important decisions, but we also have to bob and weave with reality, right? And most new grads are not hit with 40 different competing offers. So you, at every step of the way, you may not feel that you have, all of the expertise you wish you had, but I have to tell you something. Yes, can't get an interview, Margaret is saying on the chat, due to lack of subject matter expertise. At one place, Margaret, at one place, there is another one and another one and another one. We have a tendency, whether you're in career change or not, to see a job search as this, Mad Libs. I go to the Mad Libs and I fill in the blanks and they should hire me. It's going to be a lot more work than that, whether you're career changing or not. Yes, Debbie, ATS, applicant tracking systems are maddening. I don't like them. I hate them as an HR person. I never brought one in during my HR tenure. I don't approve of them, and I want you to work around them. I want you to not go through them. That is the passive Mad Libs approach. Let me fill in this thing and see if these guys call me. I want you to work harder than that. I want you to research employers. I want you to find them on LinkedIn, find them in the newspaper reading about employers. You will never shine in an ATS. You will never shine. Think about it. They say, what were your tasks and duties at your last company and the one before that? Why in God's name are you asking me my tasks and duties? Because anybody who had the job would have had the same tasks and duties. What a stupid question. You don't know the tasks and duties for a customer service manager, what I was before, or whatever I did before? Why are you asking me tasks and duties? Ask me what I left in my wake. Ask me what I left behind, what I accomplished, what I got done, what I made better in that company. That'd be smart. But no, we designed these ATSs from the 1940s based on literally factory job applications. Do you remember in the 80s, the era of like, woo, we're going to program all our problems away? They would say garbage in, garbage out. Remember that? Garbage in, garbage out. So this is garbage in. It's still coming out 40 years later. Garbage out. Yeah, we're going to ask you about your tasks and duties. You will never shine in the ATS, the applicant tracking system. I wrote a book about reinvention. It's at the library. It's called Reinvention Roadmap. And it says the ATS is super not your friend when you're career changing. It's not great for anybody, but you're career changing. try to get the power and heft of your background through an ATS when you come from a different industry, different function, and you haven't done things that the clerical people staffing the other side of that ATS are going to see as relevant. So how are you going to get an interview? You have to blow past the ATS, go on LinkedIn, find your hiring manager that you'd be reporting to, and approach them a different way.
And Liz, you bring up an excellent point that I try and make to job seekers all the time, which is this: job seeking is a full contact sport. If you are relying on job boards as your primary way to look for a job, you're going to fall into the job seeking quicksand very quickly.
So well said.
And if you're, even my job board, I post tons of jobs, and I try to post jobs that are, and I make sure that they are real, that they are current, that recruiters are actually hiring for them. But even then, it's a prospect board. It's a prospect board. Find those 3 to 5 opportunities on that board that sing to you, that are tied to you or connected to you, and then deep dive them, like Liz is saying. But don't spend more than 25, 30% at most of your job seeking time on job boards. If you're just randomly sending out your resume or filling out applicant tracking system applications and hoping that it's like fishing for a whale with a worm. It is very, very difficult to do. Use them strategically. And the other part of that is, use common sense as well. I mean, obviously, if you're a baker and, they're hiring for the space shuttle, that might be a passion of yours. But if you don't have at least 70 to 75% of the skills that they're looking for, I would say it's going to be very difficult to get through those. And when I say skills, it's like Liz is saying, it's not just necessarily saying, okay, like this is one I love, Liz, digital native. We want you to be a digital native. I mean, that is so fraught with ageism. It's fraught with, it's saying that, basically, if you don't have all of the computer skills up to date that are relevant to everything that makes the world go around right now, don't bother applying. And it is so offensive.
That's offensive. I'll tell you a reinvention story. I was doing a series of live workshops a few years ago, and a woman came in and she said, I just moved here to Colorado from, I forget where, but we'll say Texas. And I ran the largest Humane Society, the largest animal shelter in my metro area in Texas. Wow, good for you. Yep. I started veterinary school, and then I left and I got a business degree, and I got into veterinary work, and I ran this crazy, beautiful shelter, and I hated to leave, but it was time to leave for family reasons. I came up to Colorado. I applied at every shelter here in my area, and I couldn't get in because, of course, it's such a love-based, mission-based business. They know who's running the place. They know who's number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5 in the pecking order, right? In the hierarchy and the love hierarchy, right? These people have devoted years to this place. If the executive director of a shelter should leave, they know who's replacing him or her. And then after that, I'm not going to walk in there at age 45 and be like, yeah, I can run this place. So good. You know what I mean?
Right.
So she said, so I've given up on the shelter thing. It's not going to work. They would all hire me for $15 an hour, as a tech, but I obviously can't live on that. Okay. So I need to go after some things way out of my comfort zone. And I'm just afraid I'm going to be such an oddball candidate. And I said, you are going to be an oddball candidate. Embrace that. You are going to be out of left field. So go with that. It's a persona. So we looked at the job ads, and she found an ad. She said, let me try this. This is an ad, a job ad for a call center manager of a call center of 80 people. She had about 80 people in her shelter. She said, I don't know anything about call centers, but how hard could it be? I ran the center, and maybe, I ran my shelter for animals, 150 adoptions a week in that place. And maybe I could do this. You could absolutely do it, honey, with one hand tied behind your back. It's not, could you do it? It's, would they hire you? Let's take a stab at it. So she wrote a letter. We call this thing a pain letter, and it goes directly to the hiring manager. In this case, a VP at the call center that was yet to be built. They said in the ad, we're going to be hiring 80 people, training them and going online. So it's a big assignment. She writes a letter. Dear Henry, saw your notice that you're launching a call center in Broomfield, Colorado. It's brilliant. It's fabulous. It sounds like a huge undertaking, but it's going to be exhilarating and fun, I'm sure. I just arrived in the area after running the largest animal shelter in this part of Texas. Crazy, chaotic situation where we had to find order and create order on the fly in an environment punctuated by barks and squeals. And then, of course, there were the animals. She's telling a joke. She's going to tell a joke because she's so far out there anyway. Let me tell a joke and just bring the humanity on the page. If the guy doesn't want to hire me, obviously, I'm never going to hear from him, but what do I have to lose?
Yeah.
He calls her 20 minutes after getting her letter, snail mail, through the mail, says, we got to talk. You get the energy. She got the energy more than I have this experience. He's not looking, anybody could have the call center technology thing, the certification. Can you come in, train up 80 people, get them on the phone? I trust the animal lady. She did 150 adoptions a week. It was Madhouse, right? She knows Madhouse. She knows how. She went in there, she interviewed twice, and she got an offer. She turned it down because she said, wow, that was actually so easy that I'm going to keep going with this, stay in touch with the guy, but I wouldn't like the call center. It would not be my, my place. But
yeah,
claiming my difference is not going to appeal to everybody. And it's never going to appeal in an ATS where the most junior person is screening the resumes coming out of that thing. But we have to have the confidence to go to the hiring manager and say, hey, maybe I have an idea of some of the pain that is bothering you. And if I'm wrong, throw my letter out. But if I'm right, let's have a conversation.
How do you identify the pain? I mean, the job posting, I interpret job postings and I can say, but I mean, how do you identify the pain?
It's not hard. Process is called pain spotting. Pick a random job opening that someone might apply for. Just name one.
Digital marketing director.
Okay, so digital marketing director, we tend to think, my skills, I've done it. Okay, go and look at their website. Go out and look at their feeds, look at their Twitter, look at their Facebook, why would they pay the money to hire this 80K, 100, 120K person? Why? Something is not going according to plan. They would never spend the money. If they have somebody who's just kind of basically keeping the fires burning with digital marketing, why are they going to hire a director? Either they're trying some huge expansion because they're falling behind their competitors, which is easy to find out online. Do the work, find out who competitors too. Angry Chocolates, right? The company I just made up. Competitor 2, Acme Explosives with the stick dynamite for coyotes or whatever. Go look them up. Do the research to understand the business pain. And I will tell you, the more you do this, the more it'll tap a database that's already inside your head and heart that you may not tap very often. You know what these business pains are. What is a customer service person worried about when they're hiring a supervisor? Right? They're not worried you're not going to understand customer service. They're worried that you're going to be a bad supervisor, like the last person they hired, right? That you're not going to have that coaching, mentoring feeling, that you're not going to understand their metrics, that, whatever. We know what these pains are. They're not obscure. We just haven't really been in touch with them.
Does it, I just had a really good question and now I forgot what I was going to ask. Anyway, all right, I'll think of it in a minute. Let me ask you this. When, the cover letter, that's what I was going to ask about. Cover letters are important. And, I tell people this all the time and they're like, well, I've heard that, nobody reads my cover letters and they're just a waste of time and so forth and so on. Cover letters are, to me, it's like one of the critical touch points in the whole job search process. And I love how you talk about writing cover letters. They're not cover letters. They're pain letters. They go straight to the idea of what and shows your ability to be empathetic and how your skills are tied
Perceptive.
to that pain as well. One of the things I talk about is in the touch points of the job search is creating your brand. And again, this is part of you being a CEO of your own self. It's about you being a CMO, the chief marketing officer of yourself, the head of public relations. I mean, you have all of these roles in your head that you have to be at. But the brand is important because it has to be consistent and it has to be authentic at all of these touch points. You can't be everything to everybody all the time. You have to, at some point, recognize and do a self-assessment and say, here's who I am. It's my skills. It's my personality. It's how I operate. It's why people like me. And it's the strengths that I know people recognize about myself. So how do you get to that point? I mean, some of it is this self-awareness process that you go down the path before you even start thinking about it, about your reinvention.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally. The book, I'll just mention one more time, Reinvention Roadmap, I wrote because...
And tell where you can buy that, because you can get it on...
Okay, you can get it on Amazon, any bookstore that's still open, or at the library. It's called Reinvention Roadmap, Break the Rules to Get the Job You Want and Career You Deserve.
And you can also buy it on your website too, right?
Yep. Oh, you can. Yes, I'm sure you probably can.
You can do it on an ebook.
Reinvention Roadmap. The idea is that there is a roadmap to get through this. It's not floundering. It's not just, oh, let me try something. There is a path laid out. And the first part of the path, Andrew just said it, is reflection. We call it stop and get altitude on your own life. Because what happens when we feel desperate for a job, of course, we go into fear. And your decision making in fear is worse, you know that, from regular life. Your decision making is not what it could be when you're like, and if you have to get a survival job, you get the survival job to pay the rent, obviously. But if you're trying to engineer a career change that feels, like I want to make the right decision for myself and my resume and my future and my income, it requires stopping. It requires getting out of your day-to-day frenzy and looking at your path so far in your life. If you're 35, if you're 75, where have you come from? What have you learned? And I'm asking you 3 things about yourself. What are you good at? What do you love to do? And where will the market pay you what you need to live on? And somewhere close to what you're worth. So you're going to research this to come up with that sweet spot. And then number 2 is you're going to brand yourself for that. Andrew mentioned reviewing resumes, writing resumes up in the mountains over the next 7 days. We've been doing some resume reviews lately, and then by far the biggest problem is overbroad branding. I'm afraid of leaving anything on the table. So let me claim everything. I do marketing, I do operations, I do customer service. Nobody wants to see that in a resume because it doesn't look real, it doesn't look compelling, and it doesn't separate you from anybody else. I just do everything. No, you don't. No, you don't. Not at the same level. And also there's no pain that looks like that. Nobody's hiring for partly customer service, partly operations, partly finance. There's no such job. You have to start from the perspective of the hiring manager. What is keeping them up at night? And that's the resume you write. Don't mention everything you've done if some of the stuff is going to pull their mind and their eye away. Make it specific, right? So it's specific to their needs. So someone says in nonprofits, that is what most jobs are, a little bit of a lot. Yeah, so figure out what that lot is though. It's still not everything. It's not every word in the dictionary. We have been trained to be sleepy, right? I don't think job descriptions are written to include everything. It's not everything. Think about it. Everything? It's over 1 million words in the English language. They may have some things. And if a job description sucks, and many of them do, don't apply for it, right? It's very easy to get into the mindset, and I sympathize. Well, employers suck, so why do I have to do all this work? You don't have to. You don't have to, but you can. That's your opportunity to take the reins, take the wheel, be the CEO, of your own career. And it means specificity. Not that you have to be a specialist forever now, henceforth, but for each job. It's just basic marketing. Speak to the customer where they are. Yeah. Don't tell them about a bunch of extraneous stuff they don't want and they don't care about. That will push your resume away from them. Talk to them about their own stuff. Here's a pain letter so you can see how it's different from a cover letter. Dear Jack, you figured out in 2 minutes online that Jack Smith is the COO of a distribution company where you want to be either a warehouse supervisor or an inventory person, okay? Because that's your background, or that's what you're getting into. Dear Jack, congratulations on going in Warehousing Magazine's list from number 17 largest distribution company in California to number 2 over the last 2 years. What a fantastic achievement. Where did you find that? In the magazine. You looked up their name. Takes no time, but you got right in through the palace walls over the moat where the alligators are. You wrote to him about him. About him. Who doesn't want it? Their own spouse doesn't give them affirmation. You're giving them affirmation from the outside. So you've opened an aperture now in their heads for them to keep reading. So, what a great achievement. I can only imagine that based on your growth, you just read about the growth, right? Your talented warehouse and management teams must be up against a wall. You did not see a job opening, by the way. There wasn't one. You wrote. When I was at Wiggly Devices, here's an accomplishment. I reduced inventory turns. I renegotiated supplier agreements, something relevant to them. And you're not saying, oh, I'm the greatest in the world. You're saying, it was a tough 6 months, but we got through it. Human. I see what you're dealing with. This is what I'm dealing with. Yep, we'll get there, Shirley. And so, if any of this stuff makes sense or warrants a phone call, let's talk. And you're doing 3 of these a day with an hour of research before they're going to contact you. Job opening or no job opening. So question from Shirley was, what about the admin? Admin is very unlikely to throw that in the garbage. You're not going to show up looking like a job seeker to the degree that an admin is going to say, oh, this can't be seen by the executive, has to go to HR. You don't mention a job. You don't mention a job ad. You don't mention a requisition number. You don't say, please enclose, please find my stuff. You're not going to kneel down and be the supplicant job seeker anymore, you guys. You're going to say, I don't know, maybe this stuff. You're going to be a consultant. Whether you officially, legally set yourself up as a consultant or not, that's the way you're coming in. That's what the wind feels like coming in. I don't know whether you have this problem. A lot of people do. I thought maybe be good to, to talk to you about it. We're raising up in altitude. I have to tell you one more thing. I'm gonna shut up. No CEO, no CFO, no CMO, no CRO, no anybody with C in front of their title, chief. No chief operating, chief executive, chief marketing. None of them would ever fill out an ATS. They don't do it. So why do you? Why do they give themselves, and the world agrees, they give themselves license to approach people directly? Why? Because that's the unspoken rule of how this hierarchy works. I'm telling you right now on this call, I give you permission to do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. The connectivity and, in any branding exercise, you're trying to hit a rational side of the brain and an emotional side of the brain. And the rational side of the brain is somebody is saying, oh, this person actually knows what they're doing. They could do the job. The emotional side is they're a human being. They made me feel fun. They made themselves feel funny. I get them. And that's an interesting thing about them. It's no different than when you're going to buy a car. Obviously, you want to make sure when you hit the gas, the car goes straight. And that's the first requisite in terms of buying a car. But so many people buy a car for other things: the stereo, the sunroof, the leather. I mean, everything else. And all of those things are even more critical to somebody. I mean, even the name of the car. There's so many different other things that people do when they're making purchasing decisions. Let me ask you about this, because this is really something that I hear a lot about. Risk tolerance. I mean, reinvention can be a disruption, and it is fraught with fear. It's fraught with insecurity, fear of failure, of doing something new, fear of rejection. It's also fear of anxiety about beginning a new career. I mean, you don't have your sea legs yet. Some of this stuff, I can have my excuse detector is on full volume here in terms of just people making excuses about why they don't want to do it. But in reality, it is also taking a step out of your comfort zone and requiring you to prove to others you're capable of doing something. But it also, it's a natural human thing to also get into that area of imposter syndrome as well.
Of course.
How do you balance that risk tolerance thing?
So such a great question, Andrew. We have been taught, you guys, I don't think the word brainwashed is too strong. I think it's apt. We've been brainwashed since we were little kids to minimize what we know and what we have and what we bring. And I hear this across the country and around the world. You're not all that. You're not so great. And that's why we believe that our credibility rests in our past job titles. You ever meet a really smart person who's never had like a responsible job, a really good job that looks good on a business card? And you're like, wow, that's like the smartest person I ever met. And they're the bouncer at this club that I go to or whatever. They are able to surmount the idea that like, I am my business card. I was there. You guys, anybody was there? I am my business card. Oh, my business card defines me. Without that business card, I'd be nothing because I have to have the title to prove I'm grown up, right? Everybody will look at my business card and say, oh, she must not be a big loser, even when she feels like a loser inside, you know?
Right.
And so now we're shaking off all that brainwashing and say, I never was a loser. You were never a loser, not for 2 seconds. You're amazing. You haven't even brought all of your talents out in a job yet. And it doesn't take a business card that somebody else conferred on you to feel amazing and to be an entrepreneur and to be creative and be all these things that you are. And so the more that you grow yourself inside, your own muscles, your own confidence, and this is why I believe in journaling throughout this book, Reinvention Roadmap, journaling assignments and prompts, writing about when you were a kid, writing about your triumphs at past jobs, remembering, reclaiming your power that drips away from you or gushes away from you when you lose your job. It's devastating, right? So the more of that power you step into, the easier it's going to be, as Andrew said, to step into a new persona and say, yeah, that's just one facet of me. That's just one facet of me. You know, I did this stuff and that stuff was really cool. That doesn't define me. Why are some people able to do it? Because somewhere along the line, they realize that I don't need everyone's approval. No one's going to approve of us anyway, you guys. We could do everything perfectly by the book, and there would still be tons of people who think we suck. So we're not out here trying to please everybody. You need one hiring manager to bring you on board. One, right? And you will keep looking until you find that person who resonates at your frequency. But here's a specific, add to resume. I am not a loser. There you go, Deb. Here's a specific suggestion. You're stepping into reinvention. You don't know yet. In the book, we call it the desert. I'm in the desert. I don't know. This is so confusing. How long was Moses in the desert, Andrew? A minute, right? Like 40 years? 40 years in the desert. I don't know. I don't know where my place is. Go and get a headshot. Now, you can't go into a photo studio these days. That's all right. You don't need to. You take a good photo with your Android or your iPhone. You get your sister or somebody to take the photo. A photo that looks like you now. Put it on your LinkedIn. Because your assignment over the next 3 to 6 months is going to be to step into that headshot and be that confident person in a new place, a new space. It always feels jarring. Andrew said, imposter syndrome at first. I'm not that person. You are though. And later it's going to feel like you, but you have to give that process time and support. And remember that it doesn't take somebody saying, okay, I anoint you. Another reinvention story. Guy came to a workshop and he said, I'm a lawyer. Did I tell the story the last time we spoke?
No.
He said, I'm a lawyer, 16 years in a law firm. I love it, but I ended up realizing I don't love law. I don't love it. You have to stay up with all these changes and all this stuff. I don't love filing briefs, all this stuff. I love training people and I do all the training in our firm. Started just other lawyers. Now I train clients too, and prospective clients and dense legal, technical material. I teach them and I love making it comprehensible and getting them excited about it. So I want to be a corporate trainer. I want to get out of law. I want to be a corporate trainer. Fantastic, beautiful path, beautiful reinvention goal. Let me see the summary on your resume. Well, the summary on my resume says corporate lawyer with 16 years of blah, 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 looking to transition into corporate training. So he obviously has not stepped into his headshot. He's saying, please, sir. And he's saying that to an entry-level person who's looking at resumes. I'm a lawyer. Would you please accept me at the castle gates? Would you, I hate to say she, sorry, that's the world. Looking at resumes is like, are you kidding me? Get out of here, right? Who are you asking for permission? You need permission to do training. You realize in addition to being a lawyer 16 years, you've also been a trainer 16 years. Why are you hesitant to train that, to claim that? Well, I assume like somebody has to tell me it's okay. Yeah, I'm telling you right now. I said, look, we're here in the workshop. I got my Honda Pilot outside. I've got little boys, so I know I have a foam sword in there someplace. I can run out to the car, get the foam sword, come back, you get down on one knee, and I will dub you a corporate trainer. And then you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't have to take an exam, you just decide. He rewrote his summary to the resume right then and there, and it said, I am a trainer with 16 years of experience teaching lay audience dense technical and legal material such that they got excited about it and understood it.
Yeah.
Now, he's just claiming what he actually did, but it's hard for us because we've been brainwashed to think somebody else has to tell us what our value is.
Oh, it's the value of the most overrated value in the world. It's called humility. And it's this sense that we cannot take ownership of our shit, that we cannot take ownership and we cannot take it and say, that's mine. I own it. I did this. And let me tell you some stories about it. Let me tell you how I'm kick ass at it. Let me tell you how my boss loved me because of it, and how I got the juicy projects and how I motivated and inspired people. And hey, by the way, I've got results here that actually show what I did. But instead we're like, well, it was a team effort. And, I was the person, I was just a cog in the wheel. No, it's who you are. Here's the other part of what you just said that just resonates. I see so many people who wake up in the morning and they look in the mirror and they see this person who's too old, overqualified, underqualified. I'm asking for too much money. I don't have this skill. Oh, I don't have that skill. I don't have this. It's a person even they don't recognize. They don't recognize the person that they're looking at in the mirror. And it's more than just those fancy words on your resume. It's about everything that you have learned and everything you have enjoyed and brought to the table over the past 20, 30, however many years you've been working, and not even working, just in terms of your personality and the values you hold close to yourself. The fact is that job seeking, and this is just the worst thing that people need to know, it is full of rejection. It's rejection when you get ghosted. It's rejection when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into that resume and that cover letter, and maybe you get a call back, but then they don't call you back again. It's rejection when you are a finalist and you think you've connected with people. And this is even the worst, is when they have somebody else to call you to tell you that you didn't get the job with no
they ghost
no
you.
explanation as to why. So we make these assumptions. We make these assumptions about ourselves. Well, I must have been really crappy at interviewing. They must not have really liked what I said here. We don't know. We just don't know. And we can't guess. I mean, sure, look at it objectively as possible and say, okay, well, maybe I could have improved here. Maybe I could have done that differently or whatever. But to have some anonymous person that maybe you've met over the phone be the person who's defining you, it doesn't work that way. You are.
I couldn't agree more. And if you think about it, most of us, maybe right now or at an earlier point in our life, dated. We dated different people. We went on dates with various people. And if we felt rejected by somebody, then that was a choice. Now, it was informed by our early training, the way we were socialized, the way we grew up in our society. But a lot of times we would be like, ugh, I never want to see that person. Yeah. And so why are we rejected? It's the same thing when you're job hunting. It's not rejection even. If we reframe it as like, that wasn't the right place. Well, that clearly wasn't the right place. Goodbye. We have to get used to slamming the door on the wrong opportunity. That's how you're going to. How do you handle, Penny says, ghosting? The comment's already gone, but it said, how do you handle ghosting? There's nothing to handle. They ghosted you. On, another pain letter. Gone. Next. So what? Right? Next. We don't want to take back in any feeling of rejection. Let's be honest. Career changers tend not to be entry level. They tend not to be super early in their career. So what's one of the things that can happen? They could be intimidated by you. You know that happens. If you haven't experienced it.
They might not have liked your perfume.
They might not like the perfume if they met you, but they will decide that you are threatening to their little system in their petri dish. You look like predator more than prey to the amoeba swimming in the petri dish, and you're gone. So that's rejection. If that's rejection, then, rejection means sending out energetic waves that repel people. And that's something we all do. And we do it more as we get older. So we're going to reframe this idea of rejection as just like, well, Mother Nature didn't want me in there, obviously. And another iron in the fire, and another and another and another. Someone left a comment, how do I hide my age? And I just want to leave that out there for a second. How do you hide your age? Imagine if somebody, I'm female, I want to hide my gender. How do I square my shoulders and be more male, right? I'm a person of color and I don't want to, I don't want that to come out, okay? If you feel like you have to hide your age, then the work is internal. There's nothing, you're not going to hide your age. And you're not, and what if you got a job hiding your age? I'm going to hide my age for the next 10 years on this job. No, you're not going to get a job because you look 48 when you're actually 52, right? You're going to hold out for people that see your value at whatever age you are, because it's wisdom. Yeah. And not everybody appreciates it, and not everybody deserves you, right? They don't all deserve you.
Yeah. No, I agree. Now, you know, ageism is it's a terrible thing. It happens. I mean, I'm not going to deny. And, you know, I used to say, oh, you know what, your maturity, your wisdom, all of that stuff is valuable. It's something that is great. And you don't have to worry about it. But ageism is a real thing. And, you know, whether it's implicit bias or whether it's just, it's folks that are sitting there and it says, well, they say they have 25 years experience doing this on their resume. You know, that's a red flag for them. So how do you try and get by the people? Because here's one of the things. And I think a lot of people think this, if I can just get through and sit down in front of somebody, if I can actually just make it through the applicant tracking system, if I can get that interview, then I know I can put my best foot forward. And that's when the aha moments are going to come. But that resume, which, you know, you'd have to agree, anybody, even the most well-written resume, they only get you at about 50 to 60%.
At the most, absolutely.
So how do you get there?
You just said it. You said it. I had to get past the applicant tracking system. So I'm saying don't even go there. Remember, we said it's entry-level young people staffing that machine, that infernal machine.
Yeah.
That's the person who's most likely to have that implicit bias. No offense to them. Old people are weird and scary and they don't do technology and it wouldn't be fun and we couldn't share Instagram, whatever. That's the person right there. Why would you put your resume in front of that person? Go above that to the person closer to your age who has pain, and you're going to talk about their pain and say, maybe I could be with you in this pain resolution, especially if you're surrounded by beautiful, wonderful, very young people.
Right. Okay.
So the channel that you pick, just like in any kind of marketing for a product or a service, the channel is incredibly important. One is through the applicant tracking system, your worst channel as a career changer. Number 2 is your network, much better already. Number 3 is direct approach, much better. Our experience with pain letters is 25% response rate. Has to be well written, has to be well researched, but that's a lot better, obviously, than most people's results through the ATS. Alumni associations, which is a form of networking, fantastic. And the last one and recruiters, of course, much stronger. They know roughly how old you are, right? You fill them in. They don't want to waste their time. They only get paid if you get the job or one of their candidates gets the job. And another channel career changers don't often think about, and I hope they will, is consulting. You can get a business card. You don't even need to set up an LLC. You can consult under your social security number, and you get a business card. These days, it might be virtual, but you're consulting and you get hired through consulting. It happens every single day. They know you, they trust you. Think about hiring an expensive person, $80,000, $100,000. That's a big decision. Hiring somebody $70 an hour to do a project, small decision.
Yeah.
So get in with the small decision. They love you, they trust you, and maybe it's a full-time job.
So, you know, another part of being the CEO for yourself that I believe is having your own board of directors. Mm-hmm. And those are people that you can go to. You can seek help, that they have advice. They can give you very frank feedback on who it is you believe you are and the strengths and the things that you need to bring, but they're objective folks that know you best, that are going to give you the kinds of advice that you want. And I think it's really helpful to do it that way. The other thing that I've been told by some job seekers, and they find this to be very helpful, is when you actually are thinking about making a transition into a shift into a different job, is to find a mentor in that job. find somebody that that does that job that you want to do, and start asking them questions. And even, you could even go shadow them for a day, at their office, but drill them and really get to understanding what that job requires and what it takes. Now, the other thing, and I this is an important part that I hear a lot from people. It's like, okay, I want to do a different job. I've got all of this experience here, and I want to do something that I've never technically done. And my fear is I'm going to have to start at a level below what I'm at right now, not only in terms of responsibility, but also in terms of my salary. And how do you manage that?
Okay, genius question, Andrew. The first thing I would say is you've done so much more than you think, because we tend to see our experience in silos. I know a lot about HR databases, but I don't know anything about marketing databases. It's a database. You know about databases, okay? You've pulled reports, you've designed reports, you've done analysis. The broadening of our understanding of what we get to claim is not just a company thing, it's us too. We get comfortable in silos, just like recruiters and people screening resumes do. So there's a reflection that is in allowing more to come into your field of vision. It's called your response repertoire. You're broadening that and saying, yeah, why couldn't I do this job? Think about that animal shelter leader who said, why couldn't I run a call center? Exactly, you could, and she got the offer. That's number one. But the other piece of this is knowing your value walking in. You get an interview and it's a little out of you haven't done this exact job before. You were a physical therapist and you're getting out of physical therapy and you have an interview to run a medical practice. You know something about the business side of that. You certainly know how to deal with clients. Let me apply for this job running a medical practice as the practice director, very common thing. So now you're in the second interview and they say, we love you. We actually want to hire you. The thing is that the salary we talked about, $70K, we're going to back off of that a little bit because you're not from you're not from this. You don't come from this. Okay. So here's what you say. Oh, okay. Okay. So that's interesting. Thank you for sharing that information. Can I ask you a couple questions about that? Yeah, sure. Of course. So you're offering me the job at a lower salary, and I am very grateful for the offer. Thank you. Did you, I assume, interview other candidates? Yeah, of course we interviewed other candidates. Okay, fantastic. And then I assume some of them came from medical practice direction. That was their past job, just like this job. Yeah, but some of them. Yeah, sure. Okay, but you still want to hire me. You still want to hire me, if I'm understanding you correctly. That's a fly on my camera. So evidently, this thing about coming from the industry is not the be all and end all, because you wanted to hire me over that. So paying me less seems counterintuitive when you could have hired somebody with experience and you chose to hire me. That takes a little bit of confidence, but everything I teach takes confidence. And that's why we teach confidence, because you're getting nowhere, shoe fly, right? You're getting nowhere without confidence and belief in yourself. So that's more important than what you put on the resume. But this script is, you're just calling them out on the complete illogic of you're going to hire somebody from outside the industry. So that's what you obviously want. You want me, but you can pay me less than the person that you didn't hire, what you would have paid them. Help me understand. And people use this script to get pay increases. Or you could also just say, forget you, I'm gone. That's so tacky. I can't believe you even would say that to save $5,000. But I'm trying to reinstill the confidence that you had when you were 8 and 10 and 12 years old, right? To say, no, you haven't lost anything. All you've done is gained. We're not hiding our age. We're not, pretending that the little dark spots or the blemishes in our background aren't real. They're not blemishes. See them as strength. See them as power in surmounting obstacles. That is how you're going to get the job you deserve.
Yeah. And on the same line, and then I know we've got to wrap it up, and I do want to take some questions here. I know we've been trying to over the thing. I think there's more comments than questions, which is great because I think there's a conversation going on here. Here's another thing, and tell me if this is a myth. I'm a VP. I don't want to be in leadership anymore. I want to get back to the front lines of what I like doing, the skills, the things that I love doing, but I don't want to manage. I don't want to supervise. I don't want to be that person in that big role of responsibility. But I apply for a job and they said, well, you would be very intimidating to your boss because you have so much more experience. And I don't think that this would be a good culture fit because they would be scared of you. They would think that you are not, that you are more talented than they are. And then the second part of that myth is, well, someone with your level of experience, you're clearly just looking for a quick paycheck until you can get a job that is going to be more in line with your experience and your background. How do you handle that?
It's
Or
a great question.
are these myths? I don't know. I mean, do
I
HR
think they're
people
absolutely real. The only thing is I don't think they will articulate the fear. The manager might be afraid of you. They will think it. They're not going to say it. But it's real. It happens every day. The second one, we think this is just a quick stop and you'll wait for, it's kind of valid. I mean, what if you did, it gets back to what we spoke about an hour ago, employment at will. If you had a contract that made it hard for you to leave, a little harder, not impossible, you just would miss out on a bonus. But there's a lot of mistrust, right? Obviously in the system. That's why most of those VPs who no longer want to be VPs and want to contribute individually start a consulting business or join an existing consulting firm, because that's the easiest way to get in there and use your expertise without like having to beg and plead. No, I swear I won't be intimidating. Like you are not able physically to squish yourself into a smaller energetic box. You can't do it. You can try. It doesn't work. We've all tried. We've tried to contort ourselves to be what they want us to be. How long does it work? Maybe 6 months and you're going out of your mind. It's just not a healthy place for you, right? You can still learn something, but it's just not the place for you when you have to pretend to be the person you're not. So our task is to say there are more than 7 billion people on the planet. I only need one who resonates at my frequency. And I'm gonna keep looking.
Yep. That makes total sense. The last thing I wanted to ask you is, how do people overcome their own personal excuses? Like, I tell you what, my biggest regret in starting my business is that I didn't do it 5 years earlier.
I know.
And I made such crappy excuses as to why. And I finally, when I did it, I realized how silly it was. But how do you get people to come over their excuses for not making the change or for not getting out of that comfort zone? I'm not judging.
No judgment, because the universal salve, the universal explainer is that we were trained to make excuses. We were trained to not try. We were trained to not take risks. We were trained very, very well for years. And by the way, those are not evil people training us. They were trained the same way. I remember stuff when I was in first grade and second grade that the teacher said that is whack. Makes no sense, but they told us, yes, children, this is how the world works. The way to get more control over the thoughts in your head, your actions, your fears, journal, talk to people, get in touch with it, don't avoid it. So when we say like, oh, well, I don't want to do this, so let me just go over here and take the safe route, which there isn't one, by the way. No, talk about the thing that you're scared of. Get power over it, journal about it. Write about it, meditate about it, and it will stop being so scary. I was the last person in the world who would have ever gone on their own. The last. I was corporate Sally. I was an HR person in a corporation. I would sit there and say, oh, my skirt is dark pink and this top is kind of pale pink. It's gonna be too much pink. I would worry about stupid stuff because it was like, I'm a corporate HR person. I have an image to uphold. Did I write correctly in that email last night? Maybe I should redo it. So fearful. So afraid anybody might disapprove of anything that I did. You get older. I had a bunch of kids, went through a bunch of stuff, and I said, "What? Who am I trying to please out here? I'm not trying to please anybody, right? People that resonate and my frequency are going to come in. A lot of other people are going to be repelled. They're going to hate what I have to say. God bless. Who cares? Yeah. I am not here trying to be okay with everyone. So the way to overcome these doubts and fears and excuses is to say, let me just ask myself, brain and body, if I have any excuses going on. Just be open to say, let me just ask, is there something? Yes, I'm deathly afraid of stepping away from my past credibility, which came from the job titles other people conferred on me. Okay, great, aha, congratulations, that's huge. You won't solve it in a day. It's not Sudoku, but you'll say, let me gradually try to take some walks, get on my bike, and release that bondage that I am captive to the idea all my credibility has to be conferred by other people or it doesn't exist.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know. You know, the other part I would add to that is just simple education. And what I mean by that is I was living under this nonsense belief that starting my own business was so hard to do. How
Exactly.
would I do the accounting? How would I do the bookkeeping? How would I
Ooh,
file my taxes? Oh, it's so scary. How would I even file to become a business? You can file to become a business in about 5 minutes on the
5 minutes.
Secretary of State's
5 minutes.
website. And then that
It's a
gives you,
scam.
yeah,
Sorry. We've been taught that entrepreneurism is scary. It's for mavericks. It's for risk takers. It's not for normal people. Why? Why would we be taught that? Why did career day mostly consist of parents coming into school who have regular W-2 jobs?
right.
Because school was set up to put people into jobs, not self-employment. And the dogma and the garbage that we're fed is that, oh, it's only guys like Elon Musk and Richard Branson. Those are the guys that nobody else can make it on their own. What? This whole country was founded. Every single one of our great grandparents was an entrepreneur, and they didn't need a fancy French word to describe what they did. They got up in the morning and did their stuff and
Yeah.
raised the kids. It wasn't sexy. Now we say, oh, don't try entrepreneurism. We have a different course, super popular. It's called Launch Your Consulting Business. And people always say, does it get into incorporation? Yes, for half of chapter 11. It's such, you said it, Andrew, it's nothing, it's trivial. You want an LLC, you set it up online, boom, it's done, $50, you got it. So we have to get away from this fear. We are all being pushed toward entrepreneurism by the world. We are all being pushed toward taking control of our career and being the CEO. Whether you end up working on a W-2 or 1099 is a clerical detail. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You're going to know your skills. You're going to know what you bring, what kind of pain you solve, and you're going to get paid.
Yeah. Well, and there's very affordable ways. Like, for example, an accountant and a bookkeeper. Okay. Yeah. That's not my skill strength. I tried, I found an accountant and I found a bookkeeper who could take care of my books. It was an affordable investment that I was thinking that was just going to crush me. I'll tell you the other thing Debbie mentioned on here, to listen to the podcast, How I Built This, which is a fantastic NPR podcast talking to entrepreneurs and the stories of how they did things. In every podcast, they talk about a struggle that they had somewhere along their story. There was a flood, or there was a recession, or there was something that happened. And so we had to pivot. We had to reinvent. We had to figure out what to do. Yeah. And every time that they talk about that, the guy Rass, the interviewer, he says, how did you know how to do that? And they all say, I had no idea. I figured it out. Yeah, it wasn't as if there was like some magic solution. They figured it out, and it was based on their gumption, their determination, as well as the things that were required specific to their own business. And they looked and they talked and they educated themselves and they did what was required to do. But I will tell you this, and don't get me wrong, I loved most of my jobs in corporate America or working in government. I had a blast. I had fantastic colleagues, and there's really wonderful positions I had. But there is nothing more satisfying than using your skills, your talents, your background, your experiences, and all of that to build something on your own.
100%. How could I disagree with you there?
Yeah.
I mean,
and the freedom you get from that.
The freedom. I launched our company, Human Workplace, when I had done so much consulting for other companies. I'd helped them in a lot of ways. And I said, why don't I stand in the middle of the throne room and say, this is how this stuff should be done, rather than maybe you guys would try this. Maybe you'd like to try this. I know it's not comfortable, but maybe I could wheedle and cajole you to get no, we're just going to talk to the target audience, which is people who are ready to try stuff, corporations, and of course, individuals too, and explain how it's done, and hold a lamp and walk through the forest and say, it's not that scary. We can do it together. And it's so natural when you have something that you feel needs to get out there and needs to be said, and you're not going to be able to do it in corporate America. It's just not going to happen. But we have been trained since we were 5-6 years old that working for yourself is terribly scary and risky. And you may have family members who would say, oh, don't do it, it's so risky. How's it risky? When you have your income split up between numerous clients the way you do, Andrew, you sleep better. Obviously, you sleep better at night because one client cannot kill you. When
Yeah.
you work for one company here in the United States, employment at will, fired because you're a Red Sox fan or whatever, how do you sleep? You don't know when these guys just decide they don't need you anymore. So entrepreneurism, you guys, is not scary. That's
Yeah.
a myth.
And even reinventing yourself in your own career is entrepreneurism at a degree too. Because I guarantee you, when we are taking our last breath on this earth, the thought that is going through our head is not going to be, gosh, I just wish I had one more hour to sit at a crappy job that I hated.
Right.
It's not going to happen. It's going to be, if anything, it's going to be, God, I had a satisfying career. I had a satisfying thing. I'm glad I took that risk in my life. I'm glad I did that. And that's, ultimately, that's what this is all about. I mean, spending, feeling creative, feeling like you're accomplishing something and that you're making a difference in the world.
All right, I'm gonna have to go too, but one thing, we got a question about insurance, and I'd be remiss if we didn't address insurance when we're talking about entrepreneurism. We're not gonna pretend that insurance is not a thing. It's a thing. You work for a company, you probably get some kind of health insurance. You work for yourself, you don't. All right, so if you get laid off, a window opens for ACA, Obamacare, and you get Obamacare. And it's gonna be like $200 a month. So that stops being a big excuse why I couldn't start my own business. Yeah. I started getting private insurance in 2000, and it was our biggest expense for a long time after the mortgage was insurance, because we have all these kids, and we built it into the plan. We said, well, this means you have to charge this, and it's foundational, but it is not a reason not to start a business. Now with the ACA, it's so much cheaper, and it's not great insurance, but it's really hard to get great insurance these days. It's pretty much catastrophic, but it's cheap, and you can get it, and you can speed along the path, and it does not need to slow you down.
And I'm not sure if this is true today, but it certainly was 5 years ago. But if you are a member of professional association, often they provide insurance plans as a group, or if you're a member of a union, like for example, the Musicians Union, which is just this smaller union in Denver. But when you join, you can get very affordable types of insurance for that as well. So there's different things that you can do, even if it's not working for a major employee. Obviously, if you have a spouse that works for somewhere and having that, but if you don't, I mean, then there are different things you can do. Hey, Liz, I want to say thank you again so much for doing this. This is wonderful. Again, humanworkplace.com. The Reinvention Roadmap is her book, but also go to her website because there are a lot of online classes. There's ebooks. There's all kinds of different things that she offers. Make sure you follow Liz on twitter.com, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and on her website. Am I missing anything?
Just that right now on our site, humanworkplace.com, you get to the site, you're going to see boxes. I want a new job. I want to be a consultant. If you click on the one, I want to change careers, there's a free download there. And it's called 10 Things Every Career Change Your Needs. You could get the download. Andrew, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And if we didn't get to your question or you think of something later, feel free to email me, ahudson@ahjobslist.com. If I don't know the answer, I'll make sure and communicate with Liz, and maybe we can come together and figure it
100%.
out. All right. Thanks again.
Take care,
Thanks,
you guys.
everybody.
Andrew, can you?
Yes, I'm still here.
Can you say that address again?
Sure. It's humanworkplace.com. And I'm going to text my message or message my email here.
Okay.
Right now, ahudson@ahjobslist.com.
So are you in Colorado?
Yes, I am based in Denver.
Really? I'm in Highlands Ranch.
Yeah, I'm not far from you. I'm just over near Cherry Creek Reservoir.
Very cool. Well, you guys were awesome. Thank you so much for all the information. I am over 50, so who cares? I'm going to market myself with all my gifts. And You guys were very inspirational.
Well, we're happy to help. And like I say, I'll email folks that have registered for this for the next seminar. It's probably going to be in about 2 weeks. But on my newsletter this week, I posted an article, and I'm blanking out on the woman's name, but she's a career specialist, but she's a reporter. She's a freelance writer, and she writes all about career issues. And she wrote about ageism, but she's a terrific expert on all kinds of things in terms of job seeking. So
and that's on your website.
It's not on my website. If you go to my website, andrewhudsonsjobslist.com, you can sign up for my weekly newsletter, which comes out every Tuesday morning. And then I always have some kind of article about job seeking in there, as well as all the jobs that have been posted the week prior.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew.
All right. Take care.
Will you be sending out a link?
Hey, Andrew, just a quick question. Do you have a moment?
I do.
Okay. Hey, this is Jessica Rowe. I was just curious, I also feel the cover letters are very important, especially when I'm hiring. I mean, it just tells you so much about how, the bullets on the resume translate into how the person's skills can literally translate into how this job would fit for them. So I love reading cover letters. However, I found, for instance, am up for a job with Amazon. I currently went to law school and now work for Deloitte in a legal capacity, but I was tapped to apply for a job at Amazon, and they have a no cover letter policy. It's very interesting. You literally can't send a cover letter. It's all about them reading your resume and them being able to make their own jump and conclusion from your.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it weird?
Yeah. I mean, some companies are so different. I mean, the larger the company is, the more out there the process is going to be. So yeah, that is strange. I'm not. It's interesting though, but at least you're in the process, right? I mean, they're
yeah. And then they actually are different in that once you've applied and have, for instance, I'm friends with a guy who runs the entire Boston Cambridge network. And so he put in a internal reference, which means I immediately got access to the hiring supervisor. She reached out to me and was in mail messaging me through LinkedIn. So I was able to then, work on a conversation and translate those skills that way. But it made me almost feel sorry for somebody who was very qualified, equal to me, who may not have that ability to share those skills, if that makes sense.
No, it does. But you know what it also brings up is that networking is such a critical part of the job search.
That's what it said to me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's there are companies that actually pay sizable bonuses to employees who help them to source candidates and ultimately full-time employees. And a lot of times there is a hidden job market out there that doesn't exist on job boards. It exists amongst references and referrals from people within that company. So,
I get $2,500 for anybody I bring in that succeeds at Deloitte. So you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. But you're right. You're also right in that it's like working at Google. I mean, if you look up and see the kind of questions they ask in the interviews, they're just crazy stuff, and you have no idea what it is they're trying to find out of it. And some companies do that. Other companies, they use these culture tests, and they've taken a page out of the online dating world. True. And instead of trying to find a romantic match, they're trying to find a cultural match. And the predictive algorithms that they use to determine will many times supersede the skills and the talents of people that are coming through, because they tell me that those are greater predictors based on culture fit than whether or not you've got 5 more years experience than the other person.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah. I just thought it was very interesting to, have gone from the start, and I'm like, where do I put my cover letter? I mean, I spent a lot of time on this and nowhere to be found. And so I just let it sit dormant until that, internal reference came along, and suddenly she reached out to me very quickly. And I thought, well, thank goodness, because
well, in most recruiters that I talk to are like you. It's like those cover letters are just they're such a critical opportunity to take your resume from being a litany of skills and talents and experiences to an actual human being. You know, I mean, and that's like the first step before the interview, so that someone can actually say, wow, this person is really interested in this company, and they've done their homework, and they've researched us, and they really understand us, and they've proven to me that the skills are aligned with what we're trying to do. And there's some personality in it as well. And as Liz said, you know, they've identified our pain. So I mean, I get, and I also hear the worst parts of it from the HR recruiters that are, you know, this person, you know, they sent me, and this actually happened to me when I was working at Frontier Airlines. I got an actual cover letter that said, it was addressed to Andrew Hudson, Vice President of Advertising and Communications, United Airlines.
Oh my God.
I mean, it was like, and then you get the cover letters that are clearly just form letters that they have just, you know, just changed the name and the address and so forth. And they are so,
Lazy.
yeah, it just,
Yeah.
and there's absolutely no connection to what they're applying for. It's just almost a recitation of what they said on the resume.
Well, and another option is, and it takes quite a lot of time, but if they don't accept a cover letter, to take your base resume and just like she was saying earlier in this conversation, just retweak it so that, you know, what you are doing, just kind of retranslate those skills to almost perfectly match what they're looking for in this job. And just use that as your resume, because most of them, you know, don't want an uploaded resume. They want, you know, the inputted one in their system for their applicant tracking system anyway. So it does take a lot more time, but it's going to get noticed that way.
That's exactly right. And
Yeah.
I do not disagree with Liz one bit that if you can track down the person that is closest to the job, the hiring manager, somebody who's actually going to make the decision on interviews, if you can do that, that's awesome. But there's also the fact is that so many of those jobs, it's very difficult to do that. And applicant tracking systems can be manipulated. One of the things that I heard about, I've never tried this, but people have told me that more than one, is that if you get into one of those applicant tracking systems, sometimes you get that drop-down menu where you have to copy and paste your resume.
Yes.
And people have told me that what they've done is that they take the entire job posting itself, they copy and paste it in clear font.
Yep, I've done that.
At the end of the resume, so that applicant tracking system is sucking up all the keywords, all the key phrases, everything that you'd think they'd want it to track. Obviously, you know, there's other ways to do that in a format of a resume. There's a section in the ways that I write resumes. There's a top section that is a branding statement with some accomplishments bulleted. And on the other side is lists of keywords and key phrases. All of that information is transferable, interchangeable based on what the job posting is saying. And then below that is the chronological, is where you start the chronology part of it.
Yeah.
But it just makes it more manageable because, you know, the idea for some people, it's like, oh my God, I have to, you know, I have to rewrite every resume and customize it to certain things. Yeah, you do to a degree. You don't have to rewrite your entire resume, but there are sections that make it more easy. But, you know, just even looking at that job posting and, you know, just internally thinking of the word cloud of the important phrases and the important words within that job posting that you can, with pretty much common sense, realize are the most important parts of that job posting.
Correct.
And then transferring that into to that section. You can even take the job posting, and there's millions of, you know, word cloud programs online that you can just cut and paste it, and they'll show you what the key words are. But you can do that yourself pretty much. The other thing I tell people is think about it. If you were the actual employer, what are the questions that you would be asking? Or what are the things that you would be thinking about? And just, you know, reversing yourself and putting yourself into the employer's shoe. You're the subject matter expert here. Even probably the person who wrote the job description is not the subject matter expert. You are.
Very good point. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I'll stick around for another 5 minutes if anybody else has any questions.
Hey, Andrew,
Uh-huh.
I'm just curious, was this recorded and will it be sent out to us?
It will be recorded, and I will send you the link to my YouTube channel. that I put them on, and all of my seminars are on there. So there was another seminar on reinvention with Linda Sollers, who's a wonderful career expert, and she specializes in reinvention. And there's another one with Janine Vandenberg, who talks about strategies for older job seekers. And there's several others. Some of them have nothing to do with job seeking, but most of them do. And so if you go to YouTube and type in Andrew Hudson's jobs list, it should pop up pretty easy, but I'll email you that as well. This one will be live on YouTube within the next, 3 to 4 hours.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been great.
For sure. Anybody else?
Andrew, this is Gil Asakawa. I just wanted to thank you for this. This is nice.
Oh, hey, Gil, it's good to hear from you. I didn't realize that you just, did you just get laid off from the Post or from your other job?
At CU Boulder,
That's right.
they eliminated my position as advisor for the student newspaper.
Oh,
They
I'm sorry to hear that.
They decided to defund the newspaper. But anyway, so I'm looking. And
Okay.
Obviously, it's kind of a weird time to look in the media world. So I'm expanding and kind of considering more of what I am.
Yeah. Well, the other thing to consider is that there is companies have really taken ownership of their media and their PR in different ways, in terms of social media, in terms of digital media, all of that stuff. And there's a lot of opportunities, because I know enough about you and your background to know that those skills are transferable. And I'll say one other thing, and this applies to a lot of people. Companies right now are struggling in terms of how they come back into a post-COVID world.
Yeah.
In terms of the stories they're telling, in terms of the narratives, the things that they need to talk to their employees about, the things they need to communicate with their clients and their customers. And it's a very different thing, but they're going to be, they're looking for people who have experience in being able to strategize in these very, very complex issues, sometimes dealing with crisis or just massive disruptions. So it's something to think about, particularly for older job seekers who have been with companies that have gone through some of these disruptions, and disruptions being a crisis, disruptions being a merger and an acquisition, disruptions being, could be a lot of different things, a downturn in the economy, the last recession we had. So it's something to consider in terms of, trying to feel people's pain. There's definitely a lot of pain points that are going on right now. And it's not just corporate America. It's also in the nonprofit world and healthcare and education. I mean, you probably saw in this paper this morning, the University of Denver has now a $45 million hole they have to figure out how they're going to fill.
Yeah, same with CU in Boulder.
Yeah, I'm sure, and same with Metro, which my wife works for. So. Yeah. But
Well,
good luck.
and
let me know how I can help. Feel free to send me your resume.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it.
All right. If there's no other questions, I am going to say goodbye for now. As always, please email me at ahudson@ahjobslist.com. You can also text me at 720-289-5877. Always happy to talk. Always happy to help. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks, Andrew.
For sure.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.